Over the past week, I have been crippled with anxiety about giving this speech. However, every time I wanted to bail out, I thought about my husband and how powerful my family story is. I know now it is one of the many tragic stories, and by standing here today, this will hopefully help prevent the pain I and many other families have gone through. My husband Stephen was the most kind, caring, charismatic, funny and loving husband to me and daddy to our two boys, Isaac, aged 7, and Elijah, who's 1. It's something many people say when they lose a loved one, but I cannot express how true these words are. He really was the most amazing husband. He did everything from cooking, cleaning, changing nappies, and even rehoming spiders delicately. He always made me feel beautiful and special, all alongside working full-time in his NHS role and building his own private business in child psychology. His passion was working with children was born out of his doctorate course. When we met, he was working in a secure mental health unit and always said he wanted to work with adults. But as he progressed through his doctorate, he realised when he helped a child, he wasn't just helping that child, but helping the whole family. And that gave him so much joy and a real sense of purpose. Stephen took his first dose of AstraZeneca on January the 16th, 2021. On the morning of the 25th of January, Stephen woke up much earlier than usual from our bed and went downstairs. He returned with a glass of water and told me he had a splitting headache and had taken some tablets. He wasn't sure if he should go into work, but due to lockdown and the fact he didn't get to see his clients face to face often, meant he didn't want to let them down. Later in the day, he called me and said his headache was getting worse and he was coming home. I then received a text saying he'd taken more tablets and he was going to stay until the end of the day. Later that evening, he came home and apologised he didn't feel up to eating dinner. He was complaining of sinus pain. Not long after, he fell asleep whilst we watched TV. When he woke up, about an hour later, he told me he had a strange tingling feeling in his left arm and that it felt like pins and needles, but different. I suggested that he shake his arm out, but it didn't pass. His arm was down by his side, hovering over the sofa. He looked at me and then looked at his arm, slowly moving to the right, and said, "I'm not doing that." At this point, we called 111. The paramedics came and we did the stroke test. He was speaking okay and could hold both arms out steady, but then his left arm moved right in front of his face without his knowledge. We knew this was not good. I, like many people, could not go to the hospital with him due to COVID, and we had to say our final goodbyes in our living room. We knew it was bad. We said we loved each other twice and hugged longer than usual. I stood at the window and watched him go. Even when he was in the ambulance, I couldn't move until it was out of sight. Stephen then actually texted me to tell me that he had arrived at the hospital and said he would be going in for his head scan soon. I asked if I should let his mum know, and the final text he would ever send to me said not yet. He was still in that moment clinging on to the pure positivity that he would be okay. And this was literally minutes before he began seizing and was intubated. He never woke up. Stephen was 32 years and died from vaccine-induced thrombosis and thrombocytopenia on Tuesday the 26th of January at 6:33 p.m. I never really watched the mainstream media news. I would only be interested in acts of kindness type of stories. I didn't really keep up with what was going on in the world. Naturally, I would come across tragic stories that would make me feel so sad for the families, but also so grateful for the love I had in my own life. You never think these things are going to happen to you. This is why I was so shocked that the mainstream media would not want to hear my family story. But I was then told that This Morning wanted to interview me, and I was glad I could go and tell my story. But as I was preparing, the phone call came in to tell me that it would not be going ahead because Ofcom regulations forbade it. This was when it truly sunk in that I was being coerced and controlled by a higher body that was using the media as a tool to promote one agenda. I was devastated for my husband. I wanted his story out there so that his legacy could help save lives. It was insinuating to me that if people heard about it, they could die because they may choose not to have it, like speaking about my husband was somehow wrong. The realisation that my husband had died from the so-called vaccine was only a number of weeks after he died, when I began getting phone calls from the hospital in which he died. The first doctor found abnormalities with his case, similar to one other case in the same hospital. We later found out that this was a 25-year-old man who had died in the exact same way the month after Stephen. The next contact was a thrombosis specialist doctor who, in no uncertain terms, said that there was no other explanation than the vaccine. I have this on tape. He talked to me in detail about how his stroke, in addition to the very low platelet count, had similarities to other rare strokes. However, he said, and I quote, that Stephen's stroke had never been seen before. It was a thrombosis phenomena. He thought Stephen was possibly the first in the UK to die from this vaccine. Again, these were his words. I've since found out that he may have been the first, but certainly wasn't the last. So finally, to bring this speech to a close, I was not that person who could stand up and speak to the crowd. But the reason I have the strength to be here comes from mine and my husband's pure love for the children of this world. I know he is with me now. And proud that I'm here. Stephen would agree with me that it's never a child's responsibility to protect an adult. It is always the other way around. If you make the decision to take the jab yourself, it's your right, and you do so at your own peril. But I say to all parents out there, do more for your children. Think about the 99.9% child survival rate of COVID and question why you would risk your child's life with no real benefit to them. Look at the obvious coercion and propaganda. See through this the way I didn't. The worst happened to me. What if it happens to your child? And even if you don't agree, surely it's safer to wait. Thank you for being here today and for our children.